Well guys, we're going to get back on the truck today. In the last video, I built motor mounts. I discovered that I had a broken motor mount on the engine, which I'm glad I did because the cracked mount was seriously deformed. And that would have been a sucky deal if I had built my motor mounts in the frame to that broken mount. So anyway, I've got the new mount, it's installed on the engine. Today, I want to start buttoning up loose ends. These motor mounts are just tacked in right now, so I want to fully weld them. The plate on this one, I need to raise it up about 1/4 inch. This is sitting down too low. I could probably just weld that up, and I might do that. I might just weld the bottom of that slot up a little bit. But I want to re-box in this cross member, get the strength back in that, just start getting this thing to where I could put the engine back in, have a drive line made, and just start getting this thing ready to roll. Now my tack welds broke on this front plate when I was pulling the motor and transmission out last time, so that's why I've got the old motor mount bolted back in so that I can get the spacing right. I'm going to tack it in real good and then I'll pull it out and fully weld it. Alright, well the motor mounts are good and solid now. I need to box in this cross member again. I cut the top off to lower it for clearance for the oil pan. And I made a cardboard template for the first piece here, but I think that instead I've been doing some trimming on the piece I cut out of it, and I think I want to weld this back in, trim off whatever doesn't fit right. I'll make some panels to fill in the rest of this separately. I'm going to start by getting this thing tacked in. Well, I may have spent more time on this thing that no one's ever going to see than I needed to, but I've got a much heavier than stock engine. I've got much bigger wheels than stock. So there's going to be a lot of stress in this area, and I need to make this as strong as I possibly can, and I think I've done that. So I'll probably do some more cleaning up before I paint. Now the next order of business is some frame notching in this area, so let me get set up for that. Now in hindsight, there was probably a better chassis for this, but this is the one I have, so this is the one I'm using. My next problem is these tires hit the frame right here because it curves out so bad, and it doesn't give me much of an angle for steering. And I think with just a little bit of clearancing here, and then I'm going to make up for it on the back side, I can get a much better steering angle and make this thing a lot more drivable. So I'm going to notch this out, figure out how much to take out, and then not only box it back in, but I'm going to add some boxing to the rear just for a little more strength. I don't know if you can see, there was some internal structure inside this. Another reason I want to make sure I bulk up the backside after I box this in. But let's see if we got any more clearance here. Oh yeah, that is quite a bit better. I think I'm going to take a little bit more off of this and call that good. Well, I feel like that's pretty good. I'm almost hitting the bottom out on my lower control arm, so it wouldn't steer much more than that anyway. I'm going to clean that up and do the other side, and then I'll work on boxing it all in. So now I'm going to make a template to cut out a piece of steel to box this back in, and then we'll work on the inside. I just had some scissors. Please hold while I find my scissors. Oh, they're in my pocket, of course. Well, I think that's a good starting point. I'll trace this out on steel and torch it out with the plasma, and then I can fit it from there. Well, the wheels are clearanced for the most part. I've still got to weld the underside, but I want to be able to lift the frame up to do that. I think right now I want to put the engine and transmission back in and make sure that there aren't any issues, because there's always issues. Motor mount's a little tight. Well, I want to go ahead and get the body, the cab set back down. I'd like to try and start fitting the front sheet metal back on, and it looks like I've only got about a ½ inch between my oil pan and my cross member. I might raise the engine up a ½ inch or so, the engine and transmission. I don't think that will affect the clearance inside my cab, but I'll get the truck up in the air and look at that a little more closely. Well guys, it's been a little while since I did the welding on the frame. I want to try and fit the sheet metal on now so that I can build the mounts for the front, and also kind of figure out how my radiator and intercooler are going to fit. I know I'm going to have to do some clearancing of the inner fender wells. I'm trying to avoid tearing it all apart and putting it on piece by piece, so I'm going to wrestle with it a little bit and try and fit it in here. And you can see I took the wheels off to try and help with that. We'll see how it goes. This might need less trimming than I was expecting. This will be a lot easier with 2 people. Well, it looks like the timing cover is going to hit on this side, and the belt tensioner and alternator are going to hit on that side. It looks like I'm going to have to remove this whole structure, which is unfortunate. But I'm going to do it piece by piece so I don't take out any more than I absolutely have to. Well, I've got laid out here my starting point for removing metal to get this sheet metal to fit. I know this is going to greatly weaken this whole structure. I will eventually replace it, but for now I'm going to get cutting on that. Well, as you can see, I've got the sheet metal just kind of sitting in place. I've got a bolt on each side holding the fender on, and the front is just blocked up on some 2x4s. I've just done a minimal amount of trimming to get this to sit in the position it needs to be. I'm still going to need to trim out a lot more. I'm going to have to modify the grill to make room for the radiator. I don't have a radiator yet, so I'm not going to trim anything else right now until I have a radiator. I want to make body mounts that mount to the frame and also support the radiator as well as all the fender structure. So once I figure out what I'm doing for a radiator, that will help me design the rest of it. So I think that's where we're going to leave this one. Well guys, the progress is a lot slower than I would like, but it is super hard to get motivated when it's been as cold as it has been. I'm going to keep trying to plug away at this. I'll keep making updates as the progress dictates. I appreciate you watching this one, and we'll see you on the next one.